Ever since his little brother was born, your client is engaging in mild self-injury. The magnitude of the self-injury is high enough to leave red marks on your client's arm. During an interview, the client's mom says the behavior typically occurs when she is holding the newborn baby, feeding the newborn baby, and not engaged with your client. Based on the indirect assessment, what function does this behavior serve? Okay, a couple different things going on here. We have a brand new behavior from our client. Whenever you're engaged with a new behavior as an RBT, okay, a behavior you haven't seen before, right? Something you're unfamiliar with, the first thing you want to do is try to identify a function. Now, until we start taking data and observing and measuring, we won't be able to know for sure what the function is, but it's a really good place to start. So if you ever see a new behavior, first thing you should think is, okay, why is this happening? What is a possible function? In this case, this new behaviors occur, the self-injury behavior is occurring, okay, in the presence of this newborn baby, right? The client's not getting engaged with. So we do an indirect assessment in the form of an interview. Mom gives us all this data. Based on all this information, what function does this possibly serve? A, gain access to a tangible. Is any part of this scenario, is there any data indicating that this client wants to gain access to something, an item or a stimulus? No, right? There's no items involved in here, okay? What about B, escape from a situation? Is the client trying to escape from anything? Well, he's not even engaged, right, in this scenario, so he can't be escaping from anything. What about gaining attention? Yes, right? The obvious choice here, we always want to go with the simplest solution first, is gaining attention, right? The newborn baby getting all this new attention. Client is not engaged with, so he's acting out with self-injury. Mom reacts, right? Gives him attention, and therefore the function of the self-injury is most likely gaining attention. Obviously, it's not automatic reinforcement because there are social stipulations involved, okay? So obviously we don't have full data here. We don't have full information, okay? So you're just giving you your best hypothesis, which is what you do when a new behavior occurs. Even without data, even without measurement, we can still hypothesize what we think the function is. Given our information, okay, I think it's pretty clear that this client is engaging in self-injury for attention. Prior to COVID-19, your client was fully potty trained inside the clinic where you work. Once COVID hit, your clinic shut down for 4 months. When the clinic reopened and the client returned, they were having accidents again. Okay, pretty common scenario. Okay, this scenario most likely represents a failure to what? So what have we failed to do, right? Pretty common scenario last year, given COVID and quarantining, where a lot of our clients might have not received services for many months. So we taught them a bunch of skills. They were making progress, and then the pandemic hits, we quarantine, and a lot of that teaching is no longer happening. A lot of that reinforcement is no longer happening, right? So not uncommon. In this case, your client was potty trained, goes home for 4 months, comes back, now he's having accidents again. What did your client fail to do? This is a pretty easy question, okay? I know a few of you have mentioned struggling to finish the exam, not having enough time. It's these questions that are going to speed you up, okay? Because the easy questions, once you get good at the exam, you should be able to answer very quickly. This one is very obvious, right? And when you're first starting out, it's more important for you to get the answers correct than to go quickly. As you get better at the exam and as you get better at answering questions correctly, speed will come naturally. Don't force yourself to go fast, okay? When you first start, focus on getting answers correct, okay? And then your speed will come. Given this question, okay, what's the most obvious thing here, right? Client had a skill. 4 months later, client doesn't have a skill. Is that shaping, learning, maintaining, or generalizing? Well, that's very obviously maintaining, right? The skill did not maintain over those 4 months, okay, when maybe reinforcement wasn't given, all right? Teaching had stopped, and now they are no longer potty trained, okay? Very obviously maintenance here, okay? We're not trying to generalize this behavior to a new setting, okay? It's still in the clinic, They just failed to maintain this potty training behavior. Okay. So again, very straightforward question here, right? And as you get better at the exam, you should be able to answer this one fairly quickly, buying you time later on for harder questions. Cora is learning the art of water bending. She practices every day with her best friend Ang. Whenever Cora successfully engages in water bending, Aang cheers loudly for her. Cora's ability to water bend improves every day. Aang's cheering most likely serves as what? Okay, so a little avatar question here. Cora is learning water bending, okay? Irrelevant if you don't know what water bending is, we just know Cora is learning something, okay? And she's practicing with her best friend. And whenever Cora successfully engages in water bending, her best friend cheers for her. Now, Cora's ability to water bend is improving. Okay, so what does that tell you? This is a reinforcement or punishment question. So let's go through our steps. Let's start with positive or negative. Are we adding a stimulus or taking away a stimulus in the scenario? Well, Cora engages in water bending. Aang cheers for her. So he's adding something, right? So this is positive, okay? And now is Cora's ability to water bend improving or decreasing, right? Is it increasing, decreasing? Well, it's improving, so her ability is increasing. When we increase a behavior, what are we doing? We're reinforcing. Aang is adding the cheering, which is reinforcing and increasing Cora's ability. Therefore, Aang's cheering most likely serves as positive reinforcement. The reinforcement questions, break them down like that. Look at positive or negative. Are we adding or removing? Reinforcement, are we increasing or decreasing? Okay, and then put them together, you get positive reinforcement, right? The hardest part about this question is identifying the learner, right? In this case, we're looking at Cora as the learner because Aang's cheering is a consequence, okay? So it's basically asking the consequence of Aang's cheering serves as what? We walk through it, it serves as positive reinforcement. Extinction is a powerful behavior change tool, but there are ethical concerns surrounding the use of extinction. Which of the following answer choices highlights an extinction ethical concern? Okay, if you've been following me a long time, you've probably seen this question before or some variation, okay? There are a few questions that I think are very important, right? And this is one of them, ethical concerns behind extinction. You'll use extinction a lot as an RBT, okay? It's important you know what extinction is, how to do it, but it's also important that we consider some ethical things around extinction, okay? So which of the following answer choices highlights an ethical concern? A, will extinction be implemented outside of treatment? Absolutely a concern, okay? If extinction isn't implemented 100% of the time or as close to 100% as possible, extinction won't work. If there's a concern that extinction is not going to be implemented when we aren't there, extinction might not be the best intervention to use. Because if we are putting behavior on extinction, and then when we leave, behavior is being reinforced, we're actually making that reinforcement schedule thinner and worsening the behavior, okay? So definitely an ethical concern. We need to make sure extinction, if implemented, will be implemented all the time. B, is it safe to put behavior on extinction? Absolutely, right? If we have a self-injury occurring or some sort of elopement or running away, it might not be safe to put this behavior on extinction. So we have to consider that before actually putting the behavior on extinction. C, will the client's stakeholders be able to handle an extinction burst? Again, similar to A, we have to consider the parents or the stakeholders involved. Extinction bursts can be intense, the magnitude can be high, the behavior is going to increase. Can the stakeholder handle that? If they can't, again, extinction might not be the best option. So A, B, and C are all ethical concerns we need to consider. Therefore, our answer is D, all the above. John visits his mother every Wednesday. These visits have occurred every week for the past 2 years. John arrives at exactly 3 p.m. His mom is always at the door waiting for him. John's mom standing by the door is on what type of basic reinforcement schedule? So clearly, John's mom, okay, is prepared for John's arrival. She stands at the door. Her behavior of standing at the door is reinforced by what? By John arriving. Okay. So what schedule is this on? So we're looking at some basic reinforcement schedules here, right? Ratio and interval schedules. Ratio is based on responses. Interval is based on time. Are we dealing with time here, or are we dealing with responses? Well, no matter how many times John's mom stands at that door, she only receives reinforcement at a certain time, right? So it doesn't matter if she stands at that door every single day, only on Wednesday at 3 p.m. will she be reinforced. So we're looking at some sort of passage of time here, right? There's a time involved in reinforcement. Is the time fixed or is it variable? Well, it says John arrives at exactly 3 p.m. on Wednesday, so same time, same day, every week. That means this is fixed. So essentially, at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, John's mom receives reinforcement for waiting at the door. A whole week passes. 3 p.m. Wednesday again, John's mom receives reinforcement again. This is a fixed interval reinforcement schedule for John's mom standing at the door. Kind of a complicated basic reinforcement schedule question. Basic reinforcement schedules are easy. This question is a little more complicated. Make sure you understand why this is a fixed interval reinforcement schedule and what behavior we're looking at, right? We're looking at mom standing by the door, okay? So go through this a few times if you don't quite understand it, okay? And make sure you understand these basic reinforcement schedules. Very easy. These questions you should get right on the exam, okay? They should be very easy questions. Punishment can be either socially mediated or automatic. Which of the following is the best example of socially mediated punishment? What's the difference between socially mediated and automatic? Automatic, of course, means nobody else is involved. There's one person involved. Socially mediated, 2 or more people are involved. So if we're looking for the best example of socially mediated punishment, all right, we just need to find the scenario where more than one person is involved. A, slamming your finger in a car door. How many people are involved? 1, this is automatic. B, tripping while walking up the steps and spraining your ankle. How many people involved? 1, automatic. C, serving someone burnt food at a fancy restaurant. How many people are involved? More than 1. It's got you, it's got the person you served. This is going to be socially mediated. And then D, spilling your own glass of wine at a dinner party. How many are involved? Only you, okay? This is automatic. So in this case, the punishment part doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the outcome is, okay? Because it's asking about socially mediated or automatic. So all we were looking for was the best scenario where more than one person was involved. In this case, C, serving someone burnt food, you are serving someone else burnt food, okay? C is our best answer. D, you're at a dinner party, but you spill your own glass of wine. Nobody else is involved in spilling this glass of wine, okay? Our best answer here of something socially mediated is C. Ben's session starts after school. When Ben gets home from school, he is always hungry and doesn't want to do anything else before he eats. He will avoid all work until he is no longer hungry. What would be the best antecedent manipulation to prevent work avoidance from Ben? Okay, so we're looking at some sort of antecedent manipulation, something to do before Ben avoids work, right? Antecedent is before the behavior. The behavior we're looking at is work avoidance. What can we do before work avoidance occurs to prevent work avoidance? All right, that's what we're looking at. So based on our information, Ben is always hungry. The reason he avoids work is because he is hungry, okay? Apparently from our information. What can we do about that? A, manipulate the MO for avoidance by withholding food from Ben. Is that going to decrease avoidance or increase avoidance? Well, probably increase it, right? The entire reason Ben is avoiding is because he needs food. The motivation to avoid is going to get higher and higher if we withhold food from Ben, okay? So how about B? Manipulate the MO for avoidance by having Ben eat before a session. Absolutely, right? If the motivation for avoidance is eating, if we have been eat before session, we can try to abolish that motivation. Okay, pretty straightforward, pretty common sense, right? And then C and D, right? We have a reinforce Ben and punish Ben. Well, reinforcing Ben when he does not engage in avoidance is what? Consequence. We need an antecedent manipulation. Punishing Ben whenever he goes off task, again, is a what? A consequence. We need an antecedent manipulation. The best thing here would be to try to eliminate the MO for avoidance by having Ben eat before session. Remember, MOs alter the value of a consequence. Okay, so if we can have Ben eat and reduce the value of escaping to eat, we might have a better session. B is the best answer here. In 5 consecutive seasons, Michael Jordan scored 30 points per game. What was the average rate of scoring per game for MJ over those 5 consecutive seasons? I intentionally made this one easy to make sure you weren't rushing, to make sure you weren't overthinking, to make sure you were paying attention. This is an extremely easy question, okay? They're asking about the average rate of scoring per game for MJ over those 5 consecutive seasons. Well, we know in the 5 consecutive seasons, MJ scored 30 points per game. So if we added those 5 seasons up, we'd have 150. If we divided by 150 by 5, we'd get 30. We'd get 30 points per game. But even simpler than that, they already give you the average, right? The only number this could be is 30, right? Each season he scored 30 points. So the average rate of scoring per game has to be 30, okay? Intentionally easy. Either you have been studying a lot and you answered this one in 5 seconds and said, why was this so easy? Or you struggled a bit with it, okay? And you need to work a little more on our average questions and our measurement questions, okay? Again, there are several questions on the RBT exam that are going to be that will be entirely simple, okay? That aren't going to challenge you. You need to answer those questions quickly, okay? And you should be able to, right? Fairly simply to get to the harder questions to give yourself more time if you need it, okay? So again, this question, the answer is right in the question, right? We have 5 seasons of 30 points per game. Therefore, the average has to be 30. Greg is teaching identical matching to a client. Greg tells his client, match the dog. The client responds by matching the picture of the dog to a cat. Greg says, no, that is a cat. Greg pauses and then says, match the dog. What kind of teaching does this most likely represent? Okay, so what do we have? We have a goal, we have an SD, match the dog. We have a response, client matching dog to cat. We have a consequence, no, that is a cat. We have a pause, and then we have another SD. Pretty clearly, what are we doing here? We're engaging in trials, discrete trials. Remember, discrete trials just means there's a clear beginning and a clear end, okay? You can do it rapidly, it's contrived, right? This is pretty clearly discrete trial teaching. It's not incidental teaching because incidental teaching and naturalistic teaching are the same thing. We're not using naturally occurring situations to teach. We are clearly contriving this identical matching program to teach our client to match the dog. So B is our answer. Chaining, there's no task chain going on. There's no task analysis going on, okay? Greg is delivering an SD. A response is happening. There's a consequence. There's a pause. And then we deliver SD again. It hardly ever rains in Vegas. Yesterday, however, it rained all morning. When I was getting ready to leave my house, I saw the rain, grabbed my umbrella, and walked out the door. The rain most likely functioned as a what for grabbing my umbrella? Okay, pretty common MOSD question here. I think it's a good way to understand MOs and SDs and what they are. All right, so a motivating operation does what? A motivating operation comes before the SD, and it increases or decreases the value of something, right? Of a reinforcer or a punisher, okay? So in this case, when you see rain and you grab your umbrella, right? You're reinforced because you don't get rained on, okay? So the umbrella opening the umbrella, however you want to look at it, is the reinforcer, okay? The MO here is what, okay? What is the rain doing, okay? Typically in Vegas, I never need an umbrella. There's no motivation for an umbrella. So even though I might see that umbrella, it might be available to me, there's no value, right? However, when it rains, what is happening? The rain is increasing the value of that umbrella significantly, okay? So the rain is functioning as an MO for grabbing my umbrella. Why is the rain not the SD? Well, the rain is increasing my motivation for the umbrella. The SD, remember, signals reinforcement is available. I might want my umbrella because of the rain, but if I don't see my umbrella, there is no SD. The umbrella is the SD to grab it, okay? It's signaling your umbrella is available. That's the main difference between MOs and SDs. MOs make something more valuable or less valuable, makes you want it or not want it. And SD says, hey, this is actually available, okay? That is the main difference. So the rain is increasing the value of the umbrella. When I see the umbrella, that's the SD to grab the umbrella, okay? Again, I think this is a good question to reinforce these ideas of MOs and SDs. People struggle with the difference. They struggle with the MOs. They don't have to be tricky, okay? Just go over it a few times. Just understand again, MOs increase or decrease the value of something. It makes you want or not want. SDs simply signal it's available. All right, I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did. I'll be back Friday with our BCBA exam questions. And then again, Sunday, we'll try to get a Sunday shout out video. Don't worry, I don't forget you, right? Sometimes we just overlook or run out of space. But as always, when you do pass, please let us know so we can include you in that shout out. I love doing it. I think it's a cool thing. So make sure you drop your name below. Other than that, keep working hard, keep studying hard, and I'll see you soon.